Hey y'all, I'm Courtney.
And I'm Sarah.
And this is Bodice Tipplers,
the podcast where we read all the books we used to steal off our grandmother's nightstands.
And then we drink about it. Hey y'all. On this episode, we read Banner O'Brien by Lael Miller.
It has some pretty serious trigger warnings. It has like some hardcore spousal abuse. It has like some murder of like a coyote style murder of trafficked people. It has racism, the kind of racism where the book and all the characters in it know that it's wrong, but it still uses terms that would upset people. Like Chinamen especially is I think the one that's really going to bother people a lot. It's got like rape threats that are quite seriously delivered. It's got crazy levels of gaslighting, like within a family. It's got like just a casually murdered sex worker in it. It's got really disappointing female trailblazers.
And it's got slapping.
It's got so much slapping.
Like, slappity slap.
Slappity sacks.
Slappity slap, don't talk back.
That's the theme song of this book. It's got spanking. It's like not a sex thing. It's like a discipline thing. And then like the woman gets spanked a bunch, and then she goes like to talk to her mother-in-law, and her mother's like, "Oh, I remember all the times my husband used to spank me."
Yeah, it's like the family that spanks together.
Yeah.
It's got this book has so much, and I am here for it.
This book has surprise leprosy.
Surprise leprosy, like yeah, surprise leprosy and surprise cliffs. So
there was no cliff there, and then there was a cliff.
While it does have very serious trigger warnings, this is a Sarah and Courtney jam because this is a book that is dialed up to 11, and so it never seems to take place in a world that actually exists.
Right. So that's why, it feels like it's probably not going to bother too many people just because it is so extreme and so sillified.
Slapping. So this one, again, this is our first of the Lael Miller books. Banner O'Brien is one of her earlier books. This was published in 1984. And we're going to put up various covers because the covers are just a delight.
Yeah, we always like these. There's a style of cover where, for some reason, I can't believe that they would do new editions of a book and hire somebody else to do a painting.
I know.
Like, you would think that they would just be lazy little assholes about it, but no. Like, there's all these paintings about this book. The modern cover, of course, is terrible and stupid.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, you got to go with the old school.
Oh, we didn't talk about what we're drinking.
No, we didn't. We're just jumping into
I raided my mother's. My mom keeps all of her wine in a drawer in the bathroom.
Bathroom wine. We're having bathroom wine.
Yeah,
now.
And so I was like, Mom, can you keep my kid tonight? And also, can I have some of your bathroom wine?
So we are drinking La Miraja or Miraggio. I don't know it's an Italian wine, but the bottle label itself is amazing because it looks like it should be the wine that is used exclusively in the movie Season of the Witch. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to put on some Donovan and I want to fuck shit up. Mm-hmm. Just fuck dudes with my sex magic. And
I picked it because there's a redheaded lady on it, and it's like one of those books where everybody's got gemstone eyes and flaming hair. And
flaming red hair.
Yeah. Well, she's Irish, Faith and Begorra. They're all Irish. They live in Washington State.
Yes.
But they're a long way from the Emerald Isle. And I can't even do that accent. I don't know why I try.
I have to have more wine before I do my bad Irish accent.
We did a whole episode that way once, and it was a good time.
It was a good time. If you want to go back, you can go to Irish Thoroughbred and hear me do bad Irish accents. We'd also like to welcome back Patreon Tony Miranda.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So thank you for your support. And if you want to support us, we have all different levels. It's patreon.com/Bodice Tipplers.
Mm-hmm. And we have like really fun stuff.
Fun stickers. So, Lael Miller, like I said, this is one of our first books by her, and she is kind of a juggernaut, especially when it comes to Western and things.
I'm a little surprised we have not read her before.
I know. So, she was born in 1949 in Washington. Her father was a town marshal, and her uncle Jake was on the rodeo circuit. So I feel like she's writing kind of what she knows. Mm-hmm. She's a voracious reader. She began writing her own stories at the age of 10. As a child, she would visit elderly neighbor and listen to the stories of neighbors' experience meeting outlaw, Jesse James. That's very cool. And they witnessed a gunfight of the Dalton brothers.
Oh.
So she's got, and I think you can see that kind of in her writing. So she graduated high school in Newport, Washington. but did not attend college. After her marriage, she spent 10 years in Spokane before moving away. She's lived in London, and she's also lived in Italy. And she has written, again, a ton of books, well over like 70 books, and most of them are bestsellers. So if you've a long-time lover of the romance genre, and especially if you love like those like Western or frontier books, you've probably read a Linda Lael Miller.
I'm a little surprised that I had not read Linda Lael Miller, and I mean, her writing is very good in this.
Her first book was Fletcher's Woman, and I think she had tried to sense that like it was one of those. It was kind of like a slog for her to get books out. She's known, again, like we said, for the books that are kind of the Western United States. So Linda Lael Miller, and she's still writing today. So, her books are pretty commonplace. All right, so we have Banner O'Brien. Again, this is a series of 3.
There's 3 brothers, so I think I know how this is going.
Yeah, the Corbin series is this one. Banner O'Brien, Corbin's Fancy, and Memory's Embrace. So, again, our covers are delightful. We've got red hair. We've got people in waistcoats.
I don't like the one that's on our edition very much. Well, I mean, it's fun. You can tell what kind of book it is. And it's got this kind of cool little frame with roses and stuff. And I like that all right. But the 2 people, like, making out on the cover do not look like they either know or like each other.
It's like, fine, we'll do this.
They look really
I feel
bored.
like our people, the people in the book were like that a little bit. Okay. In 1886, lovely Banner O'Brien overcame every obstacle and won her coveted medical diploma. Still, she longed to escape from Oregon and the nightmares that left her shaking, screaming one man's name. Banner fled to Washington Territory to accept a position with Dr. Adam Corbin, arrogant, handsome, and rumors said violent. Although Banner respected his skills, she was unnerved by the very nearness of his moody, powerful man. His past was a mystery that would challenge her to the utmost, for Banner was determined to win Adam Corbin's heart.
None of that's true. None of that's how the book is.
That's true.
So, completely unlike what's actually on the back of the book. Banner has been asked to come to this town, which I don't think is a real town because I Googled it and all I got was this book. It's on the coast of Washington by this dude. Is it Temple Royce or is it Royce Temple? It's one of those brains.
Temple, he's a 2 last name guy, so you know he's Ponzi. He's Temple Royce.
Okay. So because there's 2 doctors in this town, there's Dr. Henderson and Dr. Corbin. And Dr. Henderson, he needs like a substitute for a little while because this terrible Dr. Corbin came and assaulted him. Well, yeah, so she's like just terrified of this like Dr. Corbin because he sounds like a monster. So she goes in and she moves into Dr. Henderson's house. And there's like a lady there cleaning. A
Native American woman.
Yeah, whose name is Jenny Lind because, quote unquote, nobody can pronounce her real name.
And Jenny Lynn is doing that broken English thing, and you're like, oh, God, here we go.
But then it actually kind of does subvert your expectations in this. But so it come to find out through all this stuff, because, like, Adam Corbin, boom, boom, boom on the door, just walks in and all, and wants to know who she is and doesn't believe that she's really a doctor. And she studied under Elizabeth Blackwell back in New York, and it's all this sort of thing, and she has to prove to him that she's a real doctor. And they go on rounds together the next day, and he says, yeah, you better believe I fucking broke that dude's jaw. Like, he gave, somebody opium instead of morphine for surgery, and she woke up and she died screaming.
Yeah. And you also find out that Jenny Lynn had been planted into the house by Adam. And so it's kind of funny because Banner is talking to Jenny, and Jenny again is doing that terrible,
ow.
Yeah. And then when Adam walks in, Jenny just switches to this perfectly accented English, and Banner's like, well, I guess I'm the asshole because she's just meeting the expectations that I have, and you find out that Jenny is she's a very interesting character, but she kind of she works for Adam, but she's also friends with Banner. So, yes, they go on rounds. We find out that Dr. Henderson is actually terrible. And we also find out that Banner sucks as a doctor.
Yeah, I was so pissed off. You gotta tell me Elizabeth Blackwell didn't sacrifice all that she did to have this dumb fuck be her apprentice?
Maybe she was so beautiful that Elizabeth Blackwell was like, oh, you're pretty.
Fine. A pretty face will get you a long way. Maybe that's why she went to the other side of the continent.
So, it ends up, her and Adam kind of come to this working relationship. You find out that he runs the hospital, and the hospital is actually in his family's home. His family is, of course, super fucking rich.
But before they go and look at it, something happens that to illustrate what a terrible doctor she is. There's somebody comes running like, oh my god! Like they've been to see the brothels and all these places, but there's been a bar fight where a guy gets his a knife through his hand.
He gets hand stabbed.
Yeah, he gets hand stabbed.
It's a minor hand stab. I mean,
she forgets to stitch it.
She just watches in horror, and I was like, I would think that she had seen something worse than a hand stab.
She's been in like New York tenements and stuff. I mean, she bandages the hand without thinking about like, and then and so Adam is like, you gotta go because the crowd is getting nastier. And she's like, and to be fair, she's like, I've been in fucking terrible places in New York City. I'm a doctor, but he treats her like shit, and like says you have to go, and like they get in a fight, and I think she slaps him. Then I forget, they're always slapping each other.
Yeah, the first slap happens outside of that. Slap one is there in the slap count. And she's saying, oh, I did all these things, but like if you think about it, had she been a resident, if she had been on ER, Eric LaSalle would have kicked her ass out of that so much faster and so much meaner. So
she's so bad.
She is such a bad doctor.
But then they go to the hospital, and it's a really nice little tiny hospital that's in his house and all. And, like, it's his mom's house and everything. You kind of meet some of the family members, and you meet his terrible secretary, who's an evil bitch. And then he starts making out with her in one of the exam rooms when they're giving a tour. Like, that's how fucking fast.
Yes, he's like, and here's where we'll be doing examinations. Here's my mouth on your mouth. And she's like, yes, finally.
And the secretary is like, oh my fucking god, what's wrong with you? And I mean, like, she's supposed to be the bad guy in this, but I think that that's a reasonable question.
Yes, like,
this is not professional behavior. This is not in the AMA Code of Ethics. Code of Ethics.
The Code of Ethics.
I think that's what it's in. It's in the Code of Ethics.
The mouth ethics. So yeah, they make out hard, and I think she, of course, is like, no, and he's calling her Shamrock because of her hair, and he also calls her O'Brien, which I found kind of cute.
So he always says it at top volume because he's always hollering. Like,
he is like hollering. He's a loud, blustery, one of those kind of
So you get a little family information, and you find out that like in the family, the mother is like a suffragette.
Yes,
and she's always petitioning the government out in Olympia. The father is dead and has been dead for 5 years in a mysterious and tragic boating accident. Yeah, if anybody falls in the water, they ain't. I mean, I've read comic books. And then there's two younger brothers, and then a much younger, like, change of life baby sister.
Yes, Melissa's the sister. The youngest brother is Keith, and then the middle brother is Jeff. So we have Adam, Jeff, and Keith, who, by all rights, really should be part of the Trans Am fan club.
Oh my god.
Is anybody in, like, the 1880s just named Jeff? Or
well, this is the second brother Jeff that Courtney has, like, fallen for completely.
I'm going to make my list of Jeffs. Like, that's going to be our first, like,
the first one that I can think of is In the Flame and the Flower. And, like, yeah, like, brother Jeffs are always way better than, like, protagonists, whatever name.
Brother Jeffs are best Jeffs. But the thing is like, these three bros have the most 1980s names. Like, I imagine them having, like, sort of those half mullets and wearing, like, the sleeveless white t-shirts, and like that are tucked into the acid wash denim, like. So yeah, we meet the brothers, Keith and Jeff. The three brothers are going to put on their best like black t-shirt and go see REO Speedwagon.
They had to share it? Is it just one black t-shirt? You had it last time, bro.
Oh my God, imagine in the shirts. There's so many members only jackets.
But the funny thing is, so the way that these people are described, they only describe Adam once. I think Linda Miller is hot for Jeff too, because it's always talking about he's walking in his sea captain's outfit and his shirt's always open and there's like lipstick on his nipple.
I just came from getting my titties sucked. Like, that is something a 1980s dude would do.
We will come back to titties in this book, by the way.
So much titties in this book. Slapping in titties.
So we've introduced kind of like the main set of characters, and they've kind of very quickly fall into a working relationship.
Yeah. Where he works, and she just slaps him.
Yeah. But it's getting close to Christmas, and Christmas
Bitch don't do any work. She don't do any work.
Christmas is a huge time in this family. They do this big old fucking thing. They're big old damn Christmas people. But like it's already like they've already laid the thing that like every year on Christmas, Adam will disappear for the morning and will come back like blackout fucking drunk and be an asshole for the rest of the day. And she's like, I wonder what's up with that. And, of course, the rumor is that, like, he's got a woman somewhere.
Yeah, he's got some kind of, like, ladies,
Like a second family.
squirreled away. And so she's like, I love you. She's already said that she loves Adam because, I mean, how can you not love someone who just yells at you and, you know.
By the last name.
Yeah, like.
Rounds!
Like, how can you not love that? But she's like, he's got a woman somewhere. And we hear this sentence. Like, I think Lynn and Lael Miller just, like, copy and pasted that shit because that sentence comes out so many times. Anyway, so, yeah, Christmas comes. They have, like, or they're getting ready for Christmas.
Like, she's buying presents for people, and they're putting the tree up, and it's all very, very sweet and all this stuff. But then, as fucking advertised... Oh, wait, at the party, Temple Royce does show back up. And so it's like an outdoor, like the skating thing. And so just to remind you of him, and in between here somewhere, we've had a scene where it's him on a ship and they hear a revenue cutter coming. Like a scene just completely divorced from everything else in the book. And they have, like, they have illicit stuff in the boat, including, like, you know, I'm sure it's like tobacco and fibers and a whole bunch of Chinese people being smuggled in from Canada to reunite with their families in the U.S. So they just chuck them all overboard.
Yeah. So,
in other words, if you had any guesses about Temple Royce not being a bad guy, no, he's the worst of bad guys.
I don't know, but I feel like there's also this she puts one of those throwaway lines where he's like, if this is hell, hell would be this day. Where you're supposed to know that he feels bad. Like,
oh, fuck him.
I don't know. Like, I'm very curious as to, like, if she tries to redeem him later.
In the other books, I don't know,
maybe, but
and then was it Christmas that because Adam was, you know, missing in action because he was doing whatever it is he's doing. Don't worry, you find out by the end, and it's stupid. So like the bodies wash up, and the sheriff comes, or the marshal, or whatever, and he's like, somebody, like, the coroner is Adam. Like, I guess you're his assistant. Can you come and just, like, you know, sign these death certificates? So she has to go, and she has to, I mean, of course, they've been in the water for a long time. Super gross. And then he's really pissed off at her. And she's like, where the fuck were you? You weren't here. I had to do it.
So she does one actual thing. Like, she goes and signs a death certificate.
She's always throwing up. Don't you learn not to throw up real quick if you're a doctor?
Especially if you've gone and,
you're a 19th century doctor.
If you've gone and worked in the New York City tenements.
I know. You've seen worse.
She constantly throwing up. Constantly.
They don't fish out bodies from the East River? I mean, like, what the fuck?
I don't know. Better O'Brien. You also find out during the course of all this, of her getting closer with Adam and, you know, becoming friends with his family, that she has run away from an abusive marriage, that she was married to this guy named Sean and he was abusive, and she has divorced him and she has fled. You think that Sean is in jail.
Well, you know that she saw him in Portland, which is one reason, like, getting off a boat. He's a sailor. So, like, obviously they were married way back in New York. So what are the fucking odds?
But she thought he was in jail. She got him put in jail.
Yeah, but she saw him. Anyway, she might have thought she was crazy. I don't know. But she that's one reason she was really happy to leave Portland. And she has nightmares about this guy. It's really scary. And she talks about how, like, that, it's not like she doesn't think that sex is supposed to be like that, but they had terrible sex. But she obviously doesn't tell people that she's divorced because you wouldn't in 1886. Right.
So at Christmas, her and Adam exchange gifts. She gives him a wood drum reminiscent of the time that they go and visit the Native American tribes village.
Oh yeah, and that stuff is kind of it's an odd, like, mix of well researched and also, like, does she have to talk about how that smells all the time?
Yeah. And then he gave her this little, like, shamrock pendant. So he comes back after one of his, like, travails wherever he goes, and he is, of course, shit-faced drunk. Y'all, he has come back from the REO Speedwagon concert, is how drunk he is. And
I guess, like, the horse, because, like, a car doesn't know its way home. But, like, the reason that he hasn't, like, fishtailed off a bridge is because the horse knows where it's going.
And so he comes and grabs her, and he's like, you and me, we're gonna do it. And she's like, no, we're not. And he's like, yeah, we are. And he's like, and then she's like, I'm not. She's like, no, I'm not married to you. And he's like, well, we're gonna get married then. And just, like, to be fair, like, it is not, like, it is not under duress, because
she's like, well,
if Adam is at the REO Speedwagon concert, Banner is lifting up her crop top to show the band her boobs. Yeah. Like, she is trashy, and she's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's
she
get
talks
married.
a lot of, oh, no, but she doesn't even believe it. Like, she does not put up
So they go-
any kind of defense. So remember, he's this drunk, okay? He drunk enough to come home, say, fine, let's get married. Then they get back in the buggy or the carriage or whatever. They go down to the brothel.
While they're grinding. He is like, there's grinding while they are driving that wagon. There's
The poor horse
so
is
much
like-
wagon grinding.
The horse knows exactly where the fucking brothel is.
Here we
obviously.
fucking go.
And because then he tries to, like, Roger her in the hallway at the brothel.
Well, and they finally, like, go and, like, find whoever.
They wake up the justice of the peace. And he's like, oh, fine, fuck, oh, fine. And then they get married.
Before they get married, she does tell, Blackout.
Oh, she says, I'm divorced. You need to know this. I don't give a shit. I just want to fuck you.
And so they get married, and then they do it all night long. All night. Y'all, he has gone from being drunk on a mountain somewhere. This is how steadily he maintains this drunk. He's drunk somewhere, comes back to his house, fetches Banner, gets Banner in a wagon in the dead-ass winter where it is cold, throws her in that wagon, is grinding on her, gets her to, like, another location.
Never go to the second location.
Where he wakes up somebody and gets government documents. They have a conversation, and then they fuck all night. And then this son of a bitch wakes up the next morning.
And he's like, you whore.
He wakes up, and the first thing he does is suck on her boob for a while, and
Oh, yeah.
they do it again, and then he's like, well, what happened last night? I was like, look, we have all been, well, not we, that is bad, like...
Many of us.
Many of us have had a blackout drunk moment, and usually it's like you just don't remember, for me...
A conversation, maybe.
the last 15 minutes when you do the Irish goodbye and go to bed.
Uh-huh. You don't forget, and it's cold as shit. And actually,
He forgot the whole ass night. He forgot a good 12 hours when he got married.
and he
then
was keeping it up like a champ.
He went,
Like, he had so much blood in his dick.
and he went down on her. I mean, like, they had sex, like,
Marathon.
marathon sex. And then this motherfucker wakes up and is like, what happened?
And then, the unforgivable thing that he does at that point is not that he forgets that they got married, because he sees the marriage license, and he's like, well, you tricked me. But then he's like, how did you learn how to fuck like that, you fucking whore? And doesn't let her explain, he just stomps
And
out.
then he snatches that... he snatches the pendant off of her, too.
And she doesn't slap him. Like, you slap him every other time. That's the slap time. That's a slapping right there.
That's a slappable moment.
Yes.
She doesn't know to choose her slappable moments.
Well, and then again, she was so shocked. I mean, wouldn't you be?
And then, he goes off and pouts for a little bit, and he comes back. He does apologize.
But not nearly.
No. I mean, you apologize with that kind of shit. Like, you apologize with a new wagon or diamonds or something. Like,
New grinded wagon.
new grinding wagon.
This is diamonds. This is diamond time.
If the wagon's a knocking, rocket, don't come a knocking.
You thought that in Night Song they did a lot of wagon fucking?
Oh my God, no.
That girl had nothing on the wagon fucking in this book.
So they make up,
But not greatly.
no. So
Because she doesn't want to say, and he's like, he doesn't want to ask her, I guess. But she's not going to tell him that she's divorced again because, like, fuck you, I told you.
yeah, and then she's like, "Well, where do you go?" And he's like, "Well, I'm not telling you that." So they're like, these two are still not talking. And then we got Jeff.
He keeps saying it's not a woman. It's not a woman, but I can't tell you what it is. It's not a woman, but I can't tell you what it is. Well, fine, it's not a man, but I can't tell you what it is either, asshole.
And Jeff's like, "I'm done with you two." So he like just goes off for a while. He's just doing Jeff stuff. Getting his nipple sucked with a shirt like unbuttoned. And while he's on one of his travels, he meets this guy.
It was the guy who had knifed the other guy's hand to the table in the knife fight.
Yes.
Because he's been telling tales about the beautiful lady doctor with the red hair, which is, okay, that's one person in 1886, right? And then, and like, so he's trying to like, he's trying to kind of like talk himself up. So Jeff hears him. But then also so does Sean.
And, so Sean goes and tries to talk to, he finds out, like, he knows that Jeff is from this town. He goes info gathering to Jeff, but Jeff's not falling for it.
No, Jeff's a smart dude.
Jeff is the smartest of this crackerjack crew. And then the guy goes and talks to the knife stabber, and he gets information, and he knows now where to go. So we're like, oh, Sean's on the move. Mm-hmm. He's on the hunt. So what he does is when he gets to town, he finds, like, he goes and meets with Temple and starts working on his smuggler crew. So we have that going on.
And so, in other words, and she does this quite well, I think.
Mm-hmm.
She has this structure such that whatever is going on with Banner and Adam, it's got like a countdown until Sean comes on the scene.
Yes. And so this is going on, and then meanwhile we've got Mrs. Corbin. You know, she's working on the suffragette movement, so she's left town too. Also, Keith runs an apple orchard / preacher.
Yeah, he's like a Lutheran or Methodist. He's not. They're all Catholic, but he's not. And
no,
I guess that's in his book to explain why.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Who cares?
And so basically, what we have.
This book is not a 500-page book. This book is 300 pages soaking wet. A lot happens in the 300s.
And essentially, what has been going on, while the Sean stuff, is Banner and Adam yelling at each other and fucking. And also, Adam, if he's not fucking her, he is sucking on her boobs. So
Constantly.
much so that they've gone up a size.
Yeah. They're bigger now.
He has sucked them so much.
And I didn't realize reading it. I had to think about it later. His mom tells this story about how he didn't thrive on breast milk as a baby, and so this indigenous woman named Martha Washington just shows up one day to fix her life because whatever.
Gave him some oyster juice.
Yeah. She just boils oysters and gives him oyster juice, and that's what he lived on for 10 months. So the whole reason why he cannot leave her titties alone is that,
I like that you're deep diving. Maybe he just liked boobs.
Dude, he likes boobs in a way that you like boobs if you are 3 months old. And
he is always on those boobs.
Maybe I'm oversensitive because my son never got the hang of breastfeeding, and I don't want him to be. They keep saying plundering. He's plundering her breasts again. He's plundering them. Arr, matey.
I was get off me.
Yo-ho.
And so they've kind of, we do get a time lapse, the book kind of.
And other things happen, there's a huge explosion and fire at the mill, and so
off scene, we find out that she is indeed a good doctor. I don't believe it.
No, not for a minute.
She's useless. She's the worst. World's worst.
He's always away when anything happens. I guess he's always doing his mysterious thing on the mountain. When anything important happens, she has to handle it. But so eventually, what happens is, so Sean comes to town, and incidentally, he has murdered a red-haired sex worker because he thought for a second it was his wife, and he didn't realize.
He just saw her, and his first reaction was just, oh, I gotta murder that bitch.
Yeah.
So the sex worker gets killed. And Banner is I know who did this.
Well, no, it's not that. He ends up in jail. What does he do that gets him in jail? It's
it's
a bar fight or something.
Who else would kill a redhead but Sean Malloy? And she's I gotta go. I'm leaving.
Well, no, before that, Adam and her go to the jail to sew up this just rando who has a big old cut in his head, and it turns out that it's Sean. And of course, she's trying to slip out, but it's just, So yes, her first reaction is, these people, I mean, to be fair, it's not to protect her reputation or anything. She knows she's divorced. It's because she thinks that Sean's going to murder everybody, which, fair, he does try to murder everybody.
Yeah, he's very murdery.
So she's I'm going to run.
She tries to do a flee. Jeff catches her.
And then calls his brother.
And then the brother, I think, this is around the time that the public spanking happens.
Yeah, there's a lot of it's really embarrassing, and it's not sexy at all. And
he does that over the shoulder, carrying her and is spanking her, and she's just put me down, Adam Corbin, I'll kill you. She's never. I think the reason that it's they're both they're both at 11 all the time. That it's just it's very much in the early book ravishing kind of genre of
it doesn't feel like Flame of the Flower or anything. It's just, Joanna Lindsay books do this all the time. There's always going to be a spanking in a Joanna Lindsay, or Outlander. But, but I didn't like it, all right? Because it wasn't a sex spanking. It was literally pulls up her dress and, spanks her bare ass for discipline, and it left a really bad taste in my mouth.
And then she comes back, and like you said, she talks to Catherine, his mom, and she's like, oh, Oh, the good old days. Daniel, my dead husband in the canoe accident, used to spank me all the time. Oh,
when I was naughty.
She's like, that's just what the Corbins do. If they love you, they spank you. And I'm like,
what the fuck is wrong with you, bitch?
People are weird. I mean, like, not that spanking is weird. I mean, it's not, but like...
well, okay, discipline spanking that is not like it's a consensual fetish thing.
Safe, consensual spanking.
She doesn't have a safe word. She doesn't have a safe word to say, stop pulling my skirts up in front of other people and spanking me. Oh my God. And he doesn't let her wear underwear anyway. They have this whole thing about that.
But no, he does, like, he says not to, and she just does it. That girl, like, she is... That, you know,
she needs to be in gore. Like, she needs to go through that like a gore portal.
Yes,
and get gore girled.
So they end up. She tries to run away multiple times.
And so finally, like, she talks to Jeff. Like, she actually has real conversations with Jeff. Unlike Adam, they just yell. But explains the situation, and Jeff is like, okay.
Jeff is a problem solver.
Yeah. Jeff is like, okay, I'm going to keep my fucking eye on the sea captain. And
he's like, basically, I'm just going to kidnap him.
No, wait, yeah, okay, at that point. Because what he was going to do... Yeah, okay, that's what it is. He says, I'm going to kidnap him. I'm going to, like, I forget what they call it, but I call it Shanghaiing, and I guess you can't say that anymore.
Crimping / that, yeah, the term's Shanghai. And he does it, and he's like, when he comes back...
or if he escapes, I'm going to send you a telegram.
And then what happens is, like, he just takes care of it, because she's like, oh, and he's like, bitch, I took care of it.
It's handled.
He's like, and she's like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, he's like, I'm sending him to China.
Yeah. Well, it's on his own ship. So he does that, but he says, okay, at some point he's going to fucking escape. And if that happens, I send you a telegram. So you would think, okay, I understand that it wasn't addressed to her, but there Adam's gone again. And she misses the telegram because it was not addressed to her.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But I mean, like,
how is Sean Malloy the world's dumbest oaf guy? Like, how does he just manage to escape a ship?
He's got a talent for crime.
Like,
he's Mr. Mistopheles.
He just jumps off a ship in the middle of the, like, ocean. I was like,
I don't know.
It's wild. He's on that canoe. He's on the canoe.
Yeah, he knew that was safe. So she doesn't know that he's escaped
because the telegram has come. But she's like, oh, it's addressed to Adam. Meanwhile, this bitch doesn't care about anybody else's his privacy and anything else.
Oh, she tries to follow him up the mountain.
Yeah.
Well, partly the maid told her to, so I don't know what the fuck is going on. Like, the maid is not, like, the person to listen to, obviously. So she almost freezes to death because it's kind of hard to trail somebody in the snow. And so she wakes up and in this lady's bed, and her name is Lilani. And she's sure that must be Adam's mistress, even though everybody says not Adam's mistress. But she's there anyway. She almost froze to death. He's there with her. They fuck and they suck on each other's titties and they plunder all the titties. But he doesn't explain anything.
The best part is she's like, you have this is like the book quote. She's like, you have an Indian woman, and he's like, actually, Lilani's Hawaiian. And I was like,
okay.
I was like, well, good for Lilani, but yeah, she's upset, but not upset enough not to say no to that D.
No. She's never too upset to say no to that D. Mm-hmm. And sometimes there is, like, dubious consent in these sessions, like, because they'll be slapping each other and then they'll be slapping each other.
In it, though. She is just as much like they are a toxic relationship. It's
like Fancy Pants.
They're Bud and Sissy. They're Bud and Sissy from Urban Cowboy, which I will be talking about much later, I'm sure, because that is always my reference point for these types of books. So,
they're exhausting. They're fucking exhausting.
They come back.
And exhausting fucking.
They come back off the mountain, and then Adam gets a surprise attack. And it has to be noted it's a surprise attack because Adam's so tough.
Look, I mean, I'm picturing Sean, and, like, they never really tell you what Sean looks like, but I'm assuming he's about 5'2" and maybe 100 pounds soaking wet.
See, I
feel like a little ratty guy.
I saw him more as, like, a Gaston, like, huge kind of, like...
well, I mean, maybe we should have... she should have explained a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
But
she
again, his name
explains.
is, Sean obviously is an old name, but I do love that, it's keeping with our...
But these brothers, they all have, she explains what they look like in the most romance novel sense.
And then there's
she'll meet somebody and he's got, bulging thighs and his breeches barely contain them. And they're all very corded with muscle. But no, I pictured Sean as little, like Dewey Crow, if y'all see Justified. I'm picturing, fucking incompetent criminal.
I saw him as, overly large, big dude. But, I mean, I think that's what works about it. So... Adam gets his ass kicked.
Yes.
Has to come, they have to bring him back on a door,
Yeah. But he gets truly beat.
You know what, though? He's not too beat down to ask for a BJ.
Yeah, he's like, I can't do any pimping.
He's like, hey, Banner, or O'Brien, my ribs are broken, but you know what's not broken? My dick.
Dude, there are dudes like that. I have met dudes like that. I had a dear friend who was in a terrible car wreck, and I went over because he needed people to stay with him, and
hey,
so
Sarah.
yeah, no,
give me a handy.
So and his mom had to go to work at 5 a.m. So I got up early, and I was there, and I was reading my book on the couch for 3 hours, and I'm like, sometimes I gotta knock on the door and see, if he wants anything to. And damn it, his girlfriend didn't crawl out of there.
Well, why am I here? Why?
That was mine. What the fuck?
I'd be so pissed about that.
Oh, I'm still am, actually.
Yeah, he owes you.
Yeah, he does.
So,
that was years ago. I'm still a little bit. But yeah, there's dudes who can get it up for
Banner,
anything.
after the BJ, Banner tries to flee yet again. Because she's like, he's gonna murder all of you, and Jeff's like,
well, Jeff gets his ass beat too, though.
Jeff gets slapped around a little bit. Then here we go. So we find out Temple is working with Sean, and basically he's like, "Well, get your wife back, but let me get a ride on that," which was gross, obviously. Then we find out.
And we probably should put this in the trigger warnings. This is pretty upsetting.
This is amazing. So we find out that Temple don't give a shit about Adam. Temple hates Jeff / loves, I think he's secretly in love with Jeff. We find out that they used to be BFFs. He was part of the Trans Am Club. And what broke Jeff and Temple's friendship up was that when they were in their teens, they got into an egg fight. An egg fight where just Temple or Jeff just whipped a couple of eggs at Temple, and the eggs cracked and they had dead chicks.
Yeah, one of the eggs that hit him in the forehead was fertilized. Yeah, and he's never forgiven him. This is the kind of book where he has thrown desperate people over the side of a boat. But the important thing is that once somebody threw a little package at his forehead.
He got egged in the head, and a little dead bird came out, and it upset him so much that he has never been able to forgive Jeff.
Yeah, it's Adam was in it too, so I guess he hates them all, but he really hates Jeff.
It's the most, when I read it, I screamed. I was just this is the most amazing.
We actually find that out later, though, because that comes after the other big reveal. Because I was waiting for it the whole time, because you were like, wait till you find out.
Kentucky Fried feud over a fucking egg. An egg.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just a egg. Yeah.
So Temple wants to destroy Jeff because Jeff once threw an egg at his head.
Yes.
Which is a completely sane reaction.
But so they cook up this, actually, it's really an upsetting plan. That what has happened is that the secretary girl, whose dad...
Francel. She's 17.
Dad is the marshal. She has stolen, because of course it's not like there's an electronic copy of Banner's divorce papers, right, or her medical diploma or anything else, because it's 1886. So she has it in her medical bag. It never leaves her medical bag because it's what proves that she's, for right now, not a fucking bigamist.
But you know what, bitch, put that in a safe.
Yeah, right.
Put it in the safe.
I don't know. I like to have it on me at all times, so I would be very nervous about that piece of paper. But so what happens is that Francel steals both that and her original marriage license to Sean. Only shows her dad the marriage license to Sean. And so Banner gets thrown in fucking jail as a bigamist.
And Adam, of course, is on the mountain when this happens, so
always.
Jeff has to come deal with it. Like, it's Jeff who's like, you know.
And then Temple, like, is there standing with her. Like, he oozed her out or something. And, the whole thing is just, like, super gross.
Yeah, so she gets out of jail, and, you know, again, she hates Adam for a hot minute until Adam's like...
Everything, seriously, anytime anything happens, he's up on that fucking mountain.
He is always on the mountain. Copperhead Road, or whatever the fuck is happening. Copperhead Road. So she gets out of jail. Adam realizes that it was Francel, and he goes and corners her, and, you know, he basically gets the marriage license back, and, you know, all is well. So...
But, like, that's, like, the fight, I think, that, like, finally he's like, you want to fucking see, finally? Like, is that, how do they end up on the mountain at the end of it together?
Well, first, there's also a moment where... Banner, she slaps Francel. Because Francel, like, and the thing is, it's like...
Oh, that's when the mill blows up.
Poor Francel is, I mean, obviously Francel was wrong, but she does say, I am sorry for doing that to you. And Banner's reaction was just to slap the shit out of her.
Well, I would too, dude. She could have been in big trouble.
Yeah, but, I mean, also, like,
You don't do that to another woman.
Yeah, but when somebody comes to you and good for, like, you slap them before they apologize.
That's true. You got to get that slap in early.
That's a pre-apology.
But, of course, Francel's always been in love with Adam.
Yeah,
like, why? This man has nothing to recommend him.
She's 17. So they have, we find out that Banner is pregnant.
Oh, yeah.
And she's going to run away again. She's constantly trying to run away. And finally, Adam is like, fine, bitch, come on, let's go.
Because she will not believe him that it's not a woman. But he's like, I cannot tell anybody. And it has killed me, but I cannot tell anybody.
And she's like,
why don't you just fucking tell me?
I'm having too much sex with you to do it with anybody else. She's like, I don't believe you. So they finally go. So finally, it's after the baby, and, you know, she's going to leave again. And, you know, you've got a woman, 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 you've got a woman.
Like, fuck you, bitch, fine, but you can't tell anybody.
So he takes her up there, and then she's like, well, I don't want to go now. And he's like, fuck you, we're doing it. And so
she's so terrible.
Oh, my God. They get up there, and Leilani comes out, and she's all serene. And then this other person comes out, and he's like, basically, Adam's like, Dad. And she's like, what? What?
You said you're dead?
And then, you know, his dad comes out, but bum, bum, bum.
He has leprosy.
He's got leprosy. He's got surprise leprosy.
Yes.
And he had been on a trip.
He got it fucking around in Hawaii.
Yeah, he got it fucking around in Hawaii. And, you know, he came back and knew he had been fucking around. He had been with Leilani and, you know, contracted leprosy, and he came back.
But she didn't have leprosy. She had cancer.
Yeah.
Why not?
You know, like, and she's immune to leprosy. So the boat accident was real, but they used it as, like, a cover his death kind of thing. Like, make up his death. And so he's lived on this in this cabin up in Washington, you know, or up in the mountains or whatever.
And every 3 weeks, like, he brings up...
Adam has to go and resupply them.
Okay, fine. But, okay, so I don't remember when the smallpox thing happens. I think that's what actually makes him finally take her up there. Because yet again, he's not there.
There's so many disease, like, just like, surprise, disease,
and
surprise.
So Jenny comes running to the house. And Jenny hasn't been in the book for 200 pages.
Yeah.
And says, there's smallpox in the village. And so she goes, because she's a fucking doctor.
Yeah, in the Native American village.
Yeah,
I can't remember the tribe, but yeah, in the tribe village.
So, yeah, and she goes, and they don't take her seriously. She doesn't speak a word of their language.
Right.
And what they're going to do is that they have, their kind of,
they're basically going to parboil somebody.
Yeah, well, they're going to kind of do like a... I'm sure it's not actually a sweat lodge because it's not. It's like a wood, like stone hut, and they're gonna do like hot rocks, and then they're gonna throw you into like the water of the bay. Yeah. So in other words, it's a hot then cold thing, and they think that cures smallpox.
And once again, who comes to the rescue is fucking Jeff.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, fucking Banner. To be fair, they don't let her do anything.
Yeah, because she comes in just hollering and screaming. And what Jeff does is Jeff basically, and right or wrong, Jeff says, like, if you do what you're going to do, it's bad. It's bad omens or whatever. And then they're like, well, you got to punish that lady. And he's like, okay. But he's like...
Because if he doesn't punish her, then they're all going to come and do it, which... Yeah. I mean, maybe they're like, okay, this is obviously a bad doctor. If you don't handle this bad doctor, we're going to go beat her ass if she never comes back here.
I mean, but Jeff is like, all right...
So I'm going to hit this pile of hides and you're going to yell, okay?
And that's what happens. And, like, yet again, fucking Jeff.
So they had to call in another doctor, like a whole other doctor, to go handle the smallpox epidemic because fucking Banner couldn't do it, and Adam was on the fucking mountain again.
Yeah.
I think it's after that she's
after
like, okay,
that
you have to tell me what the fucking...
And after that, yeah. I know this seems like, I know we're very chaotic again, but, like, this is a chaotic energy book. This is, like, this should have been a June book because this is a big Gemini energy book. Like, it's crazy. There's just so much happening.
And finally... And this is like she's pregnant, but I don't think she's like big pregnant. The father like kind of like creeps down the mountain and be like Luani, like she needs you. She's in a lot of pain.
We don't know where Jeff is, or Adam isn't on the mountain, but he's not there. So she goes up the.
She goes up the mountain. It's like a procession. She goes, because now she knows where she's going. And then Adam follows her. And then Sean follows him. And then Jeff follows everybody.
So it's a big confrontation. Big confrontation happens.
Like everybody's creeping through the woods on everybody's trail. It is like some Bugs Bunny shit is going on here.
So she gets up there, and Lilani has died from cancer. And she's consoling Daniel.
That's how sad he is.
Yeah. Leper Dad. Leper Dad is very sad. And she's consoling him, and then Adam shows up and he's like, what are you doing here? She's like, Lilani's dead. And it's very sad. He's like, you shouldn't be up here. And then Sean shows up and he's like, what's happening?
I'm going to kill you all.
And then, Leper Dad is like, wah! It like jumps at Sean, and Sean's
like, not leopard, but
he leopard.
There's a cliff that was not there.
All of a sudden, Sean and Leopard Daniel are tussling, and then Jeff shows up, and Jeff
after they're dead.
Well, I thought Jeff saw us that go over the mountain.
Oh, I think he might have, but he didn't get a chance to talk to him or anything.
So Sean and Daniel go over the cliff. Somehow I think Banner's ass goes over the cliff too.
I think she doesn't quite.
I don't know. She's so stupid. I think she just fell. She just saw it. Was like, oh, everybody's doing it. So her ass is half down the cliff, and then Adam's standing there no. And then Jeff shows up, and
you asshole.
He looks and he's like, well, that's Sean, and he's like, that's my dad.
Is that my goddamn dad?
With his face sort of melted off, and so And then the thing is the brothers always fought because they're brothers. And then Jeff's like, no, Jeff's out for blood. And he is kicking Adam's ass. And then Banner gets her ass up the cliff and fires the gun in the air and it's like, get away from my husband. And this is the one time I was like, if I had been Jeff, I'd have thrown hands at both of them.
Yeah.
I'd have hit her
slapping both hands.
I'd have hit her too because
dual wielding your slaps. Fuck the both of y'all.
There's my dad who was surprised alive, but now is really dead. Not in a canoe accident, but in a cliff accident.
And where did this cliff come from?
This surprise cliff. This cliff that just shows up out of nowhere.
Oh my god. And I mean, okay, yes, leprosy is contagious. Yes, they did not know as much about it back then. But is it really worse to not know?
Oh my god,
your dad is not dead? Can't you wave at him? I mean, okay, after a year and a half of fucking lockdowns, I think we can. I mean, I spent a year of South Carolina summers sitting on a back porch to talk to my mother every Wednesday. Okay, it was hot as balls.
It's wild, and so
I stayed 6 feet apart. It's fine.
And so Jeff is just fuck this shit, I'm out, and he leaves. And then we flash forward to, jump cuts from Banner and Adam having a lot of sex in public places.
Yeah, just everywhere. Behind a screen in a living room and shit. It's the kind of thing, it's kind of like Night Song, only more so,
in
where
the kitchen,
you knock when you walk in.
It'd be if I walked out of my kitchen, if I had biscuits in the oven, I was like, oh, let me go check on something else.
I guess they're gonna burn now.
Yeah, if somebody was like, hey, I'm gonna bang it out real quick.
I'm gonna plunder your titties.
Oh my god.
Stop plundering titties in the kitchen. And we're working in here.
She finally has these babies.
They're twins.
She has twins. And Adam I guess Adam's growth is that at first he didn't want her to work. And she was like, but I'm a doctor. I have to work. And I was like, no, you don't, because you are
awful.
A terrible doctor.
Maybe it wasn't that he was thinking you shouldn't work because you need to keep our children, but more you shouldn't work for the public good.
Yes, you are the worst at it. And so they end up having twins. They have a boy and a girl.
And he grows into and says, okay, you should work and have the kids because we are rich as fuck.
Yes. And that is the end of Banner O'Brien.
Yeah. Oh, and it has an author's note about women's suffrage in Washington State.
Yes.
After all this, after the surprise leprosy and everything, I turned the page. I'm like, oh, okay. What's the author's note? Oh. That's what I was wondering about.
Yes. And now we'll do questions.
Oh my god. So question time.
This is gonna be fun.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so big dick energy or big dick energy?
Honestly, he had more of the second. I mean, like, he
Yeah.
obviously was a big dicker. But, like, he was the storming in and yelling at her always. And like, they got married, and she was like, shouldn't we be yelling Corbin now? It's like, if I did that, 20 people would answer. We live in a house with my mother and 10 other people with his name.
Yeah, he was pretty terrible. I think what, like, lessens his terribleness is that her terribleness.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, I feel like we should have an addendum to this question of, like, superior Jeffs, because the biggest dick energy in this book is Jeff.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Jeff has that.
Jeff walks in his sea captain's coat, and it is all up for grabs.
I mean, it's that, but also just the competency porn.
Yeah.
Like, Jeff, one, like we said, talks to her. He also, like, gets shit done. Like, he's really kind of the one that...
He's good at calming people the fuck down,
He
too.
does all the emotional labor in this book.
Which, you really feel for him when he's like, our dad has been alive for 5 years.
Yeah.
And now he's dead.
And he's not even allowed to, like, be upset about it. Like, you know...
Adam's like, yeah, you asshole, I couldn't tell you. Like, what the...
And then Banner's, you know, pulling a gun on him after all these times that he's, like, saved her. So Jeff... Once again, brothers named Jeff, superior things in these books. So on the Jeffometer, like, he's top Jeff.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, Adam sucked.
Yeah. Jeff now has big dick energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and I think, like, but the thing is that works well is then it goes into question 2 is, like, would you talk shit with her about the heroin?
About all day long.
She
Oh my
sucks,
God.
too. Like,
She's awful.
they're both just the
And
worst.
she's like that type, and she's worse than, okay, so like in The Bride, I can't remember her name, but
Jamie.
She was very, turned up to 11, she was very emotional, she was always screaming, but what she wasn't screaming was always, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Oh, suck my titties.
And Jamie at least could do stuff. Like,
Yeah.
Jamie was a better doctor in, like, whatever fucking...
I believe it's 1099.
1099. That bitch had more medical competency than Banner O'Brien in 1884, and who went to medical school.
Elizabeth Blackwell, it just like is slapping her from the grave. It is so ridiculous.
Yes, she is awful, and she's just, like I said, they are Bud and Sissy. They have that weird toxic relationship that people call passion.
No.
That these 80s books a lot of times have people just slapping the shit out of each other and calling it passion, when really they're just white trash in love.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah, this has big white trash energy. I don't care how many medical degrees you have. Yeah.
It's got BWTE is what it's got. So
Yeah.
big white trash energy.
Back to the bitch. There actually are a lot of great women in this, and they're not always talking about men. Like Melissa, the sister. I wonder if she's supposed to be a little bit of like a Louisa May Alcott. She writes like those for the pulps,
Like the dime store novel. Yeah, those little... Yeah, you have her, and then you have Jenny, and you have, like, Catherine, who obviously is part of the suffragette movement. We talk about the suffragette movement, and we get, like, she gets into it. Like, she does research it and talk about, how it was passed and then rescinded, and then...
Yeah, women in Washington State got the vote and lost the vote twice, which is kind of a lot, right? But there's also the maid in the house. So there's a lot of women characters. They are mostly talking about Banner and Adam, because who wouldn't be? If these people are in your life, that would be, it would be like, you would need, like, a weather report.
Again, we all know those couples that are like the, oh, Jesus.
So should I go in there? Like, either you shouldn't go in there because they're fighting and have, like, thrown glass at each other, or you shouldn't go in there because he's plundering her titties again.
Like, here they go again. They're at it again.
So when it comes to this consent, is this book more Robin Thicke or Marvin Gaye? Mostly, it's very consensual. There was one scene that was kind of that I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, how dare you, and he keeps going, and she likes it. So it's not, she says yes before it actually really happens, but she says no a lot.
I feel like she gets off on the...
Taught me into it.
Yes, like, because there's a part, like we talked about the underwear. He keeps telling her not to wear underwear, and she's like, she slaps him. How dare you? But then she doesn't wear underwear. So I think she's very into that. So
he's always literally, she's like, no, how dare you? I hate you. I hate your guts. I hate everything about you. I hate your mother. I hate your brother. I hate your sister. And meanwhile, he's got her skirts all like the skirts are rising, and they like it. And those people are exhausting.
Yeah. So I mean, again, like the sex between our two main characters is pretty. It's toxic, but it's consensually toxic.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do have like. With the other, like with Sean and her being, you know, essentially like marital rape kind of stuff, you do have that. But with the main characters, with Adam, like Adam, you know, is always crazy, but he's being her crazy where it is.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I feel like none of their, like, aside from like the public spanking, all of their shit is weird and they're both into it.
Yes. Because she'll be like, no, it's in public. Plunder him.
So,
ahoy, matey.
How badly are you judging your mama for reading this book?
You learn about women's suffrage in Washington State.
You do. It's all about it's for education.
Yeah. No. I mean, this is a respectable book in the sense that this is not like a Jay Lynn's.
I think you find out that it's obviously an early Linda Lael Miller book. And you can tell that she is a good writer because it's highly readable. It's just one of those books where, you know, there's the Coco Chanel quote about, you know, like, once you put everything on, look in the mirror and take one thing off. Like, she hasn't learned the art of edit yet.
Yeah.
Like, so there's just so much in this 300-page book that you're like, wait, it's almost like Whiplash.
It's efficient as shit. I gotta give it that. It's only a little bit longer than a Harlequin, and all this stuff happens.
So much.
And she's got, like, a really great sense of place.
Yeah.
And certainly you always feel the weather. You feel like the weather very, very, very strongly in this book. Of course, it's where she lives. But, like all that stuff is great. I mean, you feel... You kind of, it's like a you are there kind of feeling. Yeah. But it's just that these people, like, I am there with these humans. Oh my God, they're fucking in the
I would leave town. I'd be like, I'm done with this. I'm going back to Portland.
No.
I'm going back to Portland.
I'm going to Canada. I'm going to take the boat the other way. I'm going to go to Shanghai. Yeah. I hear it's nice this time of year, and what it does not have is these people.
Hold on. This motherfucker. Sorry, we had a jump cut there because my husband has had some Maker's Mark and was yelling at the movie Rocky, which he has watched 1,000 times, and is like, Mickey's the worst. I was like, you know this. I don't know why this is a new surprise.
You know, he kept those turtles. Sylvester Stallone, he still has the turtle.
Oh,
I know.
That's great. But Mickey is a piece of shit.
Yeah, Mickey, of course he's a piece of shit.
Okay. So, yeah, like we were saying, like Linda Lael, like it's there. You can see that.
I would definitely read another by her.
Oh my gosh, yes. So, and I think that this question is really interesting, and I think this is the one we're going to spend a lot of time on. Would Scarlett Johansson be in the movie?
This movie had some really interesting, especially racial dynamics, because they will go and call people Chinamen.
But, yeah, and I'm not defending any of this at all, but this is the first book that we have read that's been an older book, where you have, like, we're in Washington State, obviously, and we have various people of color. It's not just happy servants who are implied to be African Americans or black people or, like, you know, brought in Africans. We have people who are part of this Native American tribe. We have people who are from China. And there's a scene where, you know, when she first gets there, where they go to the Chinese laundromat and, like, she watches, like, you know, a man walk down the street and be berated by children.
Mm-hmm. And then an indigenous man is the one who breaks it up.
So yeah, and then, you know, when she goes to, like, the way that Jenny acts with her, you know, it's kind of like realizing that white people are assholes. And even, like, when fucking Royce throws those people off the boat, it's terrible, but it's also very in keeping with how terrible fucking white people are.
And you don't get the impression that Linda Lael Miller thinks that it's not, that like, she's not like saying, oh, well, you know, they were just Chinese. Or it's not like that. And it also, we have not, I don't think, read a book that had Native American people in it who were not Plains tribes. So I mean, this is actually it's appropriate to the location. Like, she even says, like, I was a little disappointed they weren't in teepees because she's from fucking New York and she doesn't know any better, you know. And so it's got that. It's got you know, Westerns did not used to have a lot of Chinese people until recently, and she was on that shit. So and they actually have discussions about it. She talks about racism towards indigenous people and racism towards Chinese people they have discussions in the book, which was really surprisingly good.
Right. But, and then you have her going, and it's kind of like, there's two ways to look at it. I mean, when she goes to the village, Adam is very white saviory, but you also have her being like, oh, it smells. And part of it is like, okay, we don't need to hear about how it smells, but also like, that's what a cunty white bitch would be like in 1880, And
you can't really tell what happens when she goes when they have smallpox. You can't tell if they were doing a cultural practice and she was wrong, or you can't tell if if the other way, like that they were going to kill these kids and she... you can't really tell exactly what was right about it.
And how the Native American woman came and, like, gave them this, basically saved Adam's life by showing them this thing.
But cursed him to a life of being a tit man.
So I think, I feel like that she, out of all of the authors that these early authors that we have read, has given us the most complete world.
Yes.
And, one of the things that we try to talk about, I don't know, how effectively two drunk middle-aged women do it. But one of the things that we try to talk about is the kind of the racism that these books have in just like color erasure. Mm-hmm. And while it's not perfect, and like there are some like steps where you're like, ooh, she's at least putting these people exist in this world.
Yeah, they do. And they clearly are living their own lives off screen too. Yeah. Like they'll dip in, like, when she needs something pressed, she takes it to, Mr. Wow's laundry and we'll have a conversation with him that's not relevant to the plot.
Yeah, and like
do you want it do you want it now or do you want it sent to your house? It's just these people are living everyday lives in this town, which sounds like a terrible fucking place to live, by the way.
Really interesting interchange with her and Jenny, where she had told Jenny, asked Jenny, oh, you're my friend, aren't you? And then, later on, Adam says something about Jenny and Jenny's life, and Banner realizes, I
hadn't thought that she had a job.
Well, I never thought to ask her about her life. It's like, you're my friend in that you're supposed to just, support me.
And meanwhile, she kind of did do that, though, because, Jenny says, would you come and see me at this whoever's house where I usually clean?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, sure, I will. But maybe she did, but it didn't happen on page.
Yeah.
She just kind of course, she was very busy having her tits sucked. So, she had a lot on her mind.
I think it is. I think that this book has been, aside from, this kind of cringeworthy moments.
1984?
Yeah, it's very...
yes, I would absolutely prefer that she not use the word Chinaman.
But, and I think it's done in that way, obviously, where it's not her word, it's her thinking this is what people say, Mm-hmm. I mean, it's still, obviously it's not great, but I think it's, the thing that I did appreciate was to be like, hey, these people had a really shitty time of it. Mm-hmm. That, white people weren't amazing and treating them great. And, you got to see the various levels that people were treated poorly.
Yeah, you see absolutely, a prejudice against, Asian people and against indigenous people in this environment. And it is treated by the main characters as shitty. Yeah. So, I have to say, I was really, really pleasantly surprised by that. Especially, I know this is not, Western, I guess, can be anything, kind of west of the Mississippi. Yeah. But we tend to think of Western as kind of occurring on the Great Plains or Arizona or those parts. We don't think about it in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah. But for a Western that we have read to have this much understanding of what is going on with Native American tribes in 1984. Mm-hmm. I mean, the first one that we had that really felt like it had done its super homework was Beverly Jenkins in 92.
Yeah. So I mean, this is I was impressed with that.
Yeah, I absolutely was. Props to Linda Lael Miller, and I suspect, she's probably only gotten better about it, so I should probably read one of her more current ones. You are not leaving the house looking like that. The outfits are not great in this. You'd think that they would be great, because historicals usually have great outfits.
Yeah, she doesn't Linda's I'm not spending a lot of time on outfits.
She does talk about some underwear.
Yeah, she does talk about underwear.
She's got a new canvas that's got the ribbons, and she and her drawers have the ribbons, and she's like,
But there's never a dress. There's never a.
She does have a beautiful blue satin dress, the one that's pressed.
Oh yeah, we did find out about
we didn't get any details about it. Come on, Linda, give us the details.
Yeah, we did find out it is interesting. When she goes and gets it pressed, and she watches the man have the water and he spits on the dress. And she's like, huh. And she's like, yeah, I mean...
And Adam's like, what? It's efficient. Get over
it was really into, like, yeah, but again, that's not the clothes. So there's not really a lot of, like, clothes in this.
Which is a shame. I think that perhaps one reason why historicals are so popular is because of the clothes. Yeah. You can really enjoy a good dress.
Linda don't got time.
No, she don't. Oh, would your 12-year-old self have dog-eared any pages? Would you like to hear the one I dog-eared?
This might be the horniest book.
It is extremely horny, but some of the prose is very purple. And the thing is, like, this is extremely... for its time period, 1984, it's pretty tab A slot B. Like, it is pretty explicit. But it also has sentences like this. She moaned and flung her head back and forth in a pagan fever as he knelt at the silken altar to worship. Wow, you guys. No, it has going. He goes in on her. She goes in on him, which, it's surprising. There's not a lot of blowjobs.
For 1984, we get downtown action on both parties. Mm-hmm. We get, like...
He's plundering her chest, her treasure chest all the time. And sometimes he also plunders her secret cave.
Yes.
I mean, there's this scene where he just, like, and of course, remember, he's supposed to be so drunk, he has not remembered the last 12 hours, but, like, he's got, like, pillows up under her butt, and he, like, spreads her legs and just stares at her for, like, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like,
so it's...
Yeah, it is explicit.
It is. It's
for its time period.
It is all the sex. They are doing it all the time.
And it's very, very generous sex.
Yes.
And because they got the virginity thing out of the way because she's a divorcee, so they didn't have to do that weird, like, that dumb virginity thing. They can just enjoy it, and they enjoy it immensely
everywhere, in various positions. Like, it was very modern in its sex description.
I thought
so. This is...
It still would sink into that plundering or pagan rights or whatever prose every so often.
A horny book.
This book is... They fuck. These people fuck a lot.
A lot. So, what do you think pairs nicely with a dumpster fire?
I don't know. It's almost, it's funny. There's 2 Christmases in the book.
There are, it does give us a good timeline. So maybe some
I'm thinking like mulled wine, actually.
Oh, yeah, that would be
good. like something you drink in front of a fire before you go skating, and then scream at somebody and slap them.
Yeah. So
I know that I like to get some mulled wine before I start slapping people. I highly recommend it. If you slap people sober, you have bigger problems.
Yeah. I agree. I totally agree. So this has been Banner O'Brien by Linda Lael Miller. And you can, I think it's like all of her books are still in print, so you can pick it up. Oh yeah,
we have a whole shelf of her at the library. Should we start giving like thumbs up to these things or thumbs down? Like, should we start doing a rating? I don't know.
I mean, I would think that this one is kind of like, again,
this is a thumbs up for me.
Yeah, this was a big thumbs up because it's one of those.
This book was dumb as dog shit, but also like
it was. You know what? It was a banana pants ride, and I enjoyed it, and so I think. If you're listening to us, those are the types of things that you like, so you'll enjoy it too. So, again, this is Bodice Tipplers reminding you to, if you enjoyed this and you want to support us, but you don't want to give us money, which I understand because, you work hard for your dollars. Easy ways to do that is to rate, review us on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast. You can also like us on Facebook, Bodice Tipplers. You can like us at Twitter, B-Tipplers, Instagram, Bodice Tipplers. And again, our Patreon, if you want to join, is patreon.com/Bodice Tipplers.
Bodice Tipplers is part of the Frolic Network. Find more podcasts you'll love at frog.media/podcasts.